Ladies and gentlemen, the world remains in the midst of a historic health, humanitarian, and economic crisis. Malaysia's exposure to the crisis is significant in terms of the health and safety of our population, the impact of COVID-19 virus on our highly globalized economy, as well as the political uncertainty which arises from a new government taking power in March. Local and international agencies and economic groups have projected a contraction of our economy ranging from negative 1% to as much as negative 4.6% in 2020. This dramatic reversal of our economic growth necessitates two measures. Firstly, an honest characterization of the problem by the government, and secondly, dramatic and unprecedented measures to support the local economy, particularly the vast majority of Malaysian citizens and small business owners who do not have the savings to survive this downturn. For example, the recent optimism expressed by the finance minister over some projections that Malaysia can recover up to 5.8% growth in 2021 is troubling, unrealistic, and misleading in the light of the fact that we still do not know the full extent of the COVID-19 crisis impact, which it will end, and how it will impact all the economies which are linked to ours. For example, the MCO, which we support, the decision of the government, will last at least 6 weeks and possibly longer. We know that a substantial majority of Malaysian workers have less than 1 month of savings to endure this period of hardship, according to a report from INCF. According to the Department of Statistics, 35% of those self-employed will lose at least 90% of their income, and then another 46% will lose their jobs entirely. I'm concerned, of course, that the stimulus package spending which has been announced to date does not adequately meet the gap in earnings to protect the most affected population from food insecurity and starvation, especially the children. During these times, effective leadership means managing the crisis with an honest appraisal of the problem, absent of sugarcoating and selective presentation of the data. When I look at the sum total of data about Malaysia's exposure to COVID-19 crisis, in particular our exposure to falling oil and other commodity prices, the ongoing impact of COVID-19 to our most important trading partners, including China, the United States, as well as our friends in ASEAN, and the global impact of COVID-19 on tourism and trade, I urge our leaders to be more realistic in their pronouncements. Furthermore, with the extension of MCO, which we support, I call for transparency in the disbursement of the Prihatin funds to poor Malaysians and small and medium enterprises which are facing a historic struggle. Enough of this political plundering, because there are still many in the poor category that have been complaining and clamoring for support. And I must thank at this juncture the enormous support by civil societies, mosque committees, religious associations, and individuals in taking their effort to support and complement the government on this. I call Buy Malaysian campaign to assist local businesses as much as possible in weathering the storm of this economic crisis and to amplify the impact of the economic stimulus. Lastly, I propose new extraordinary measures to be put in place to protect individuals and businesses from the B40 group from suffering the impact of bankruptcy during this period until such time that the economy begins to regain its footing. It is in this context that we have been calling for a special emergency session of Parliament to deliberate on these issues and to have a common, to support measures that would be able to redeem some of the problems that we have been facing in the last month. Thank you. Ada soalan? Ada time lapse sikit. Sorry, ya. Ya. Okey, dah. Yang tu tak. Ya. Okey, kita. Okay. Ya.
Good morning, Dr. Sri.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Joseph here from Reuters.
Yes, Reuters. Yes,
Reuters.
good to see you.
Yes, sir. Good to see you too, Dr. Sri. Hope you've been keeping well. Just
gardening, a lot of gardening.
A lot of gardening. That's a good thing, Dr. Sri. Right. So,
Yes.
one question from me. Considering that this is a time of crisis, and I know before the MCO was put in place and all of that, and with the political crisis that came before this, PH did say that you would be pushing for a confidence vote in Parliament. Would that plan now be maybe deferred while the government handles this issue?
Right. I made a specific call to convene a special session of Parliament to debate on the measures for COVID-19, and I've given the assurance that the issue of vote of non-confidence will not arise. Now, for a normal sitting of Parliament, there is of course for MPs to decide. I made it very quite clear. I mean, the government should not use COVID-19 to say that they will be secure forever. Thank you.
Sri.
Yes.
Shannon here from Straits Times.
Yes, yeah.
Hope you're doing well. I haven't
Managing
got a-
under these trying circumstances, but the hair is a bit longer, it's okay.
Same here. Maybe Dr. Sri wants I can help you with that cut. But for now, I think my motion, and you said that will be set aside for now. But still, you also mentioned in your speech extraordinary measures that need to be taken to tackle what is happening now. Now, one of the issues, I think you are a former finance minister, you're familiar with this. The government cannot borrow to finance operating expenditure. It can only borrow to finance development expenditure. So, given as you also mentioned, the restraints on our revenue due to reducing commodity prices, expected lower tax income, I'm wondering if it was proposed that we have to do some changes to the law, whether short-term or the long-term, to allow the government to borrow for operating expenditure so that it can put out more direct cash stimulus, right? I think there have been a lot of complaints about not enough wage subsidy, not enough direct stimulus to the economy. Right now what we have is a lot of credit schemes, a lot of loans. So if you want to spend more on OPEX than your revenue, you need to change certain laws. And I'm wondering whether on behalf of Pakatan Harapan you can say that if the government puts forward a bill to change these laws, that Pakatan Harapan will support it.
Yeah. Now, specifically on the issue of the government proposal, if it comes to change the law to allow for operating expenditure, development expenditure, the cost, at least to allow for a space to help appease the problems of the poor, we are of course open. But prior to that, the government must take effective measures to ensure that there is no waste. You can't be appointing, now more than 70 cabinet ministers and deputy ministers, then JLCs with all the perks. They have to stop this nonsense and excesses. We are now living at almost an economic emergency situation. You want to move a motion which is basically to deal with an emergency situation, allowing for the funds to be disbursed not according to normal financial rules. I'm open to that. I'm supportive of that. But stop all these excesses and exorbitant spending, excesses, and which is still continuing in this country. So I think, to be fair, the government must first take these measures, and if they want, they do this, come and discuss with us. I'm open. I mean, be very frank with you. The national interests, the interests of the poor override or supersede all other political considerations. That assurance is clear, unequivocal. Thank you. Yeah, Annabella, I can't see you, unfortunately.
No lah, I think I rather just use voice today.
All right.
Okay, but I have a few questions. On this, while the government is dispersing, BPN and Prihatin and everything, we also see a lot of GLCs having a lot of changes in GLCs at this time. So I was just wondering, yesterday one of the ministers mentioned that MPs who do not hold positions, they will be given positions to lead GLCs. So, as a former finance minister, do you think this is the right time to do something like this? Is this a wise move? Is this going to help the country overcome, the economic carnage of the virus? Yeah.
You see, this is the problem with this leadership. There's no central coherent message. You talk about helping the poor, you talk about the economic hardships, at the same time you talk about protecting the interests of your MPs and your cronies. Okay? And this has to stop. I mean, I am of the view that if you have one or two MPs with exceptional credentials, impressive credentials, then okay, that can be considered, and I don't think it will become a major issue. But if you make it as a rule, every single MP will be given additional position, additional perks and officers when people are struggling to eat. This is, to me, a crime, and therefore we will oppose this.
Just a follow-up to that, Harapan also had political appointees during its time in government. How different is what Harapan did to what Perikatan Nasional is doing right now?
I'm not here to defend any excesses. Perikatan or Pakatan or Barisan Nasional or whatever. But to do justice, you get the facts right. There were many professionals with impressive academic and professional credentials given tasks and offices. And we did not make it a rule that every single MP or appointee must be political in nature. So, although we can be questioned in some of these decisions, but certainly the excesses that you propose, the government proposed now, is unprecedented and indefensible.
Thank you, Datuk.
Thank you. Alright? Ada yang tulis yang do you have questions?
Soalan di Sarawani.
Yes.
Government does what you suggested, that they stop all the leakages and the wastages. So say it comes to Parliament and asks for support to maybe lift the debt, the self-imposed debt ceiling of 55%. So PH would support that?
Yes, but of course we would know should not be to the extent that the Greek experience. Then we'll have probably something unsurmountable when we are in the position to stabilize. But as a principle, we will support the government in any measure, including changing the necessary financial rules and regulations to allow for adequate disbursement for the poorer segment of the community. Okay.
Right, satu lagi soalan Susi.
Yeah.
How concerned are you that the MCO will be extended beyond April?
Now, I normally I've been very circumspect in my comments on MCO out of respect to the health authorities and security concerns. I think assuming that things are done in a transparent manner, professional and responsible manner, which many officers seem to show, I am supportive. My concern is the impact, the negative impact in terms of the sufferings of the poor. I'm talking from practical experience. I'm monitoring daily the development in Port Dickson, for example, and even in my area in Segambut Dalam. Some people are having real serious difficulties. So we have, for example, some part of the education from the government, but part has to be the responsibility of families taking care of their neighbors, which we are trying to do to reduce or help some of the problems. So thank you very much again.
Okay.